Hey everybody, Juan here. Welcome back to the channel. For this video, we're going to be talking about another upcoming remake that's going to be coming out for the Nintendo Switch on March of this year. So this is going to be in the similar vein as The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, which was a game that came out on the original Game Boy, the Game Boy Color, and then for $60, you got a pretty fine version of that game with a couple of new features, and that was met with mixed receptions, right? Some people were like, yeah, we get to play that classic with a fresh coat of paint. Other people were like, wait a minute, so you're charging me $60 for this game that's new, but it's also not the same kind of thing? So we're going to be having a similar situation with Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX. That is quite the mouthful. This is actually a remake of an original game that came out for the Game Boy Advance in 2006, and I'd never played that. So I went to this demo happily because, first of all, I got a chance to play it without spending $60. So I'm going to be giving my impressions about my experience in this video. But before that, please go down to the comment section and let me know, have you ever played a single Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game, whether it be for the Game Boy Advance, the Nintendo DS, and if you like what I'm doing on the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button, give me that thumbs up, and hit on that notifications bell. And as I mentioned, this is going to be a full price game for the Nintendo Switch at $59.99. Obviously, it's not $20. It's not going to be these easy impulse buys. And this is not a mainland Pokemon game, although I gotta say, I was surprised at just how many of the things that this game had that definitely brought me back. And for context, I have not played Pokemon Sword and Shield because I was expecting a lot more when I saw with the footage, and I have quite the backlog. So I was like, you know what, at $60 with that game, I did not buy it. So this game has quite the uphill battle, unlike the traditional Pokemon games. With this one, you play as a Pokemon that was originally a human being. You woke up and all of a sudden you're a Pokemon. You don't know why, but you really want to find out. And with this demo, you got a couple of the cutscenes, and as I mentioned, I haven't played the original one, so no spoilers here because I don't even know, but you got to make some money. You're a Pokemon, but hey, a Pokemon's got to work, right? So you build this rescue team with another Pokemon, and what I like about this game is that when it first starts, you're asked like 20 questions, something crazy, 10 to 20 questions, to figure out which would be your ideal Pokemon. I went with the one that they suggested, and that's Machop. And then you get to choose a secondary Pokemon as your support one, and with that one, I chose Cyndaquil because Cyndaquil's adorable. And talking about what I enjoyed out of playing the demo, going into it, I thought it was going to be like a hack and slash game where, okay, so I got a Pokemon, but I'm just going to mash the X button. No, there's actually quite a bit of strategy into this game. So what happens is that when you're inside the dungeons, it's almost like a turn-based game. It doesn't initially look like that, but when I was looking at the map, I'm like, wait a minute, if I don't move, the enemy doesn't move. The demo did an excellent job at explaining these things. A good example is, it quickly told me, hey, if you encounter more than one Pokemon, go find yourself a corridor, a narrow space, and take them down one Pokemon at a time. The good thing about this is that Cyndaquil, he had some attacks that he could actually attack 2 blocks down. So if this sounds a little bit like the turn-based games like Final Fantasy Tactics, Fire Emblem, it really does. So that caught me off guard because I'm like, wait a minute. So I get the Pokemon stuff because you do have your traditional 4 attacks, which they can wear out, and when you level up, you can learn new ones, but you got to swap them out. So you're getting the best of that part of the fighting mechanics of the original Pokemon games, but you're adding a little bit more strategy, and added to that, say you get a status effect where your defense gets torn down or your attack power goes down. There are these green blocks around the stages that if you press that, your stats become normalized. That can be bad as well because, see, you got an attack boost. All of a sudden it's like, well, now you're back to square one. And another thing I really liked about this game, and maybe the most important one, because based on the footage from the Game Boy Advance game in comparison to this one, the gameplay mechanics are largely the same. When you look at this, instead of the traditional GBA graphics, they got this 3D watercolor effect, which I really like because it brings out the charm from the different Pokemon. I think it blends really well. When you go to the town, when you're in your home, etc., you can walk around freely, whereas when you're in the dungeons, you do gotta go block by block, and the animation feels like a downgrade, and you can see this in the footage, right, where you can freely walk around. So one thing I strongly suggest if you play the demo or you get the full game, don't use the Joy-Cons or the joystick. You got to use the D-pad. Another thing I really enjoyed is that you actually get a couple of missions in the demo to give you a taste of what this game's all about, and it's relatively simple. You got to rescue somebody because you're part of a rescue team. That's your entire job and purpose. So you go down to a specific dungeon and they tell you, hey, this Pokemon Rattata, he's on the 3rd floor, he's on the 4th floor, so you got to be careful, right? So you got to try to survive. Once you get that Pokemon, you can either continue to progress in case there's another quest in that dungeon, or you can come back and claim your reward. The good thing about this is that say you want to get this game, but you don't want to pour 2-hour sessions, right? You just want to get a couple of missions in there. I think that because this is a GBA port, GBA remake, whatever, right? I think it definitely adapts to that type of gameplay session. So if you're not somebody with a lot of time to play games, maybe this is going to be it for you. And the final thing that I enjoyed, and I completely get why they released this demo, is that you don't really quite understand the game until you play it. As I mentioned, I thought it was going to be a hack and slash game. Then I'm here thinking, what the hell, it's a strategy game? Like, this isn't my thing. But then as you keep going, you kind of just get the hang of it, right? It does become a strategy of like, okay, so if I move, what happens to my Pokemon if he gets paralyzed? But then I can swap out to my secondary character and then I can do a quick attack. But then if I have this side effect, I can do increased damage. So there is quite a bit of strategy in the game, but because the dungeons are not overly complicated, right? You're not going to find yourself getting lost. At least with the dungeons in the demo, they're fairly simple. You go around the map and it's weird because there's a dash button, but when you press that, holy crap, it almost feels like when you play games on an emulator, right? That they go like blazing fast. It was kind of like that, but I like the fact that it's once again simple, easy, pick up and play. Now, getting to two things I did not like about the demo, and they could change, right? They could be completely different, but we do have to understand that this is a remake of a Game Boy Advance game, is that the dungeons, they definitely do have their unique themes, right? Like there's one that's like rock themed, and they have a couple of things that are slightly different, but say you have to get down to the 5th floor, right? You look at the first one and it's like, okay, this looks pretty nice, well lit. Then you go to the second one and it's kind of the same. You go to the 3rd floor and it's still kind of the same, but I guess the quest is there and I can't keep progressing, but it feels very repetitive. And even during my playthrough of the demo, I almost contemplated not playing it that much more because I was thinking like, well, if this is it, I kind of got my fix, right? Like I downloaded the demo to understand what the game's all about, but that's definitely something that I looked at and went, I hope there's a little bit more variety in Rescue Team. And the second one, people, and this is something that I could not believe. So I live in Puerto Rico. I talked about this in my 3,000 subscriber celebration video. We've been living through earthquakes even as I'm recording this video right now. So this was the first time in about 2 weeks that I was able to sit down and play a video game ever since we moved into our home studio. There is going to be a dedicated video about that very soon, but I wanted to work on this one as well. So I'm like, let's play some of them video games, people. I begin playing this game and the first thing they talk about are natural disasters, and I'm like, come on, really? You couldn't give me 30 minutes of just like non-earthquake discussion, but they gave that to me here. I almost cried. I didn't actually do that, but yeah, not something to knock against the game, but if you live in Puerto Rico, you're going through the situation, maybe play Sword and Shield, and this one can wait just a little bit longer. And now the ultimate question, at $59.99, am I thinking about buying Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX for the Nintendo Switch? Probably not at $60 because, once again, I didn't buy Pokemon Sword and Shield at $60. I didn't buy Link's Awakening at $60 because I beat the original game, the DX version on the Game Boy Color. So with this, I'm like, hey, the demo was really nice, it was really neat, but it's a spin-off game. It's not a game that I envision, playing countless hours. I have a really good backlog, but I know we did have a couple of people that were disappointed with Pokemon Sword and Shield, and maybe you just wanted something different, but with something that was still familiar, something that still brought you back. And if that's the case, and you never played these games, then hey, guess what? You get the Pokemon, you get a story. I'm curious right now personally as to like, how do you figure out, you were a human turned into a Pokemon? I would actually like to see that story unfold. Plus you get the 4 attacks, you get the dungeons, you get to see the personalities of Pokemon, and personally, I do hope that they continue releasing spin-off Pokemon titles for the Nintendo Switch. I've talked about the fact that I love Pokemon Snap, so if this game does well, who knows, maybe we see an eventual Pokemon Snap game or other type of Pokemon games like Pokemon Puzzle League on the N64. That was pretty good. So please let me know whether you're gonna get this game or not, or if you would like to see more Pokemon spin-off titles on the Nintendo Switch. If it's a remake, please go to the comment section and let me know which. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button, hit on that notifications bell, and yeah, like, get ready because I am still getting acclimated into this room. This is my first time doing the traditional recording setup, right? I'm still getting the lights adjusted. I'm still trying to figure things out. I put a little something special there, moved a couple of things over here. So I think that naturally, as the channel continues to evolve, so will this recording setup. So up until next time, thank you for watching and supporting, and take care, everybody.